Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch. Glad to have you with us again tonight. Well, we've been making lard. Several of the people in our Facebook group said they would like to see how I make lard. And I won't go into a long discussion of the health benefits of using lard from pastured pork as opposed to solid shortening like Crisco or vegetable shortening or many of the vegetable oils. That's a decision for you to make. Recent research is showing more and more that the fats in pastured pork lard are good for you, and in butter, better than margarine. But that's a journey you'll take yourself, and you'll make those decisions. If you want to make lard, I'm going to show you the process I use. The main problem in making lard, unless you raise pigs, is finding pork. And we find ours at a meat processor. You can't go to the grocery store and get pork. Pork fat. They won't sell it to you. They don't have it. If you have an old-time butcher, you can find pork fat there. And if you go to a website called eatwild.com, that's EATWILD.com, they list by state and area places where you can find free-range chicken, pastured pork, grass-fed beef, processors, and that's, I believe, your best bet on finding pastured pork to make lard with. Now, when you're looking for lard, you want to buy leaf lard, leaf fat. There are two different kinds of fat on a hog. There's back fat and leaf fat, and you can make lard out of either one of them. The leaf fat makes a much lighter, whiter, almost tasteless lard. And if you can get a hold of some leaf fat, that's what I suggest you use. Let me take just a minute to talk about our Facebook groups. Debbie's Back Porch is a Facebook group that was started by a group of people who wanted a safe and friendly and civil place to discuss organic and sustainable gardening. And from that group, we now have 5 groups, and I'll list them all in the comments of this video. The videos that we make, we started making for the groups, for the people in the groups. They wanted to see how to do things. They wanted some visual tutorials. And so I started making videos for that. And as it turned out, many people wanted to see them, so we started a YouTube channel. And we make videos, but that's not really most of what we do. Fred and I have a large organic garden. He works in it more than I do, but we have it together, and we have chickens, and we have puppies, and we have a lot of people in and out, and there's a lot of noise going on. So the videos, we just drag the camera along with us while we do whatever we were going to do anyway. So you'll hear the noise, you'll see the life, and we've invited you into our home, and we're glad to have you. Just know that this is not all really about making videos. It's about doing things, and we video it as we do it. And the little pig sound that you hear almost all the time in the videos, it's not a pig. I don't have a pig in the kitchen. It's our dog Bobby, and he's a little old. And he breathes a little funny, and he won't leave the kitchen when I'm here. So say hello to Bobby next time you hear the little pig sound. I know he'd be glad to know you're thinking of him. So the lard, we're already in the process, and I'm going to put this together so that you can see how we do it. The byproduct of lard is cracklings. So if you like cracklings, this is how you get them. Fred and I really don't eat them. But some of the elders in our community like the opportunity to have them every once in a while. So we make them and give them away. So we'll get right to it. I'll show you where we are in the process with the lard. Okay, we have cut up all of the fat in small pieces. Now I'm going to turn the roaster on. Now my roaster, this particular roaster, is a 14 quart, and it doesn't show a temperature below 200, but I'm going to turn it just below the 200, and then I'll check it with a meat thermometer because I want to try to keep it under 200 at about 180. As long as it's above 140, it's at a safe temperature, but it'll take forever at 140. So I'm going to cover this up and leave it, and we'll check back because I don't just go off and leave it. I will occasionally stir it, and as the lard renders out, because it doesn't just all of a sudden happen, it'll be a slow process, I will begin to strain it, and the volume here will go down lower until I get to the very bottom. And there's a reason for that. The shortest period of time on the heat, the better, and the higher quality lard that you get. So as the first parts of it render out, I'll take it out, strain it, and put it in jars, and let it sit and cool before I cap it. And as that lard will be beautiful and white, and the last part that I take out will be a little not quite so beautiful and white, and we'll use it first, and we won't use it for baking, we'll use it for frying. So I'm going to cover this, and then we'll come back in a few hours. Okay, this has been cooking for several hours, and normally I would have started this early in the morning, but I wasn't able to this morning. They were working on our water lines, and I didn't have any water. So I've just checked the temperature on this, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but it's holding at about 170 degrees. I just stirred it up, so it might be just a tad cooler than that. And you really do need to use a thermometer to check and make sure you're staying above 140, because thermostat's on, your roaster, your crock pot, whatever, could be off. And you just don't want something like this to go below 140 degrees because that's the danger zone. So right now, after stirring it, we're at 160 degrees. And it's still going up a little bit. So anyway, we're checking for a safe temperature. I have, if you can see down in there, we're beginning to get the liquid that we want. And as I said, we do this slowly and drain off the liquid that we get as we go. And you probably could do it a little more quickly than this, but I'm a big believer of patience in the kitchen. I have here a wide mouth quart jar. I have my jelly bag over it, which is what I often use for straining. I don't know if I can set the camera up so that you can see everything I'm doing. But I'm just going to strain the liquid that we have through this. That'll catch any solids. When I've gotten out most of the liquid that I can, I'll cover this back up, let it continue to cook at its slow heat, and put this partially filled jar in the fridge. And then I'll come back to it in another couple hours and skim off more. Patience, patience. We'll be back. Well, I'm struggling to get enough light here to show you what I'm doing because it's after dark, and so my kitchen is kind of dark, but I'll show you. This is the lard that we pulled off a little bit ago, an hour or so. You see it's lovely and white, and it's now solid because it's been in the refrigerator. I'm going to add more to it, but because it's been in the refrigerator, I'm going to put a metal knife down in there, and that'll be kind of hard to work around, but that's to transfer the heat so we don't have breakage. So we're going to dip some more out, and let me see if you can see how much liquid there is in here now. Quite a bit. So we'll dip some of this out. Until we get this jar full. Okay, that's enough. Okay, this jar goes back in the fridge. When it chills, it will be white all the way through. I'm going to fill up another jar. It'll go in the fridge too, and then we'll come back. Well, here we are back again a couple hours later. This whole process I had about 10 pounds of fat here, maybe a little bit less. Takes about 12 hours, and so if you start in the morning, you can be finished by night, except for the crackling process, which I'll show you at the end. The process of making cracklings. I found a new toy I forgot I had, and this is a fat separator, and I'm going to try this. This is the first time I've ever tried this. I think it's going to make it a whole lot easier. I think I said earlier, I may not have, I'll say it again if I did. This whole process can be cut down to about half the time if you grind the fat in a meat grinder before you start. The problem with that is then you don't have cracklings at the end, and if one of the reasons you want cracklings, which are the little bits of fat with the fat cooked out of them, just little crunchy bits, and people use them as salad toppings, or they cook them in cornbread. You don't really get those if you grind the meat. You get something like them, but it's not quite the same. And lots of the older folks in my community consider a gift of cracklings just a wonderful thing. Fred and I really don't eat them. We just make them and give them away, but a lot of people like them. Now, if you'll look at this, and I think that you can see that some of this fat is cooking down and turning brown, and some of it's still full of the fat and needs to cook down some more. That's one of the reasons we cook it so slowly. So I'm going to just do this process until I get down to the cracklings. I'm not going to show you every time I do it. But I'll just be doing the same thing slowly about every hour or so. You can wait until they're all done and then take all the lard out at one time, but you don't get as good a quality lard if you do it that way. And I'll give you the last time we were here, the lard that I took out. If you'll see, it's nice and white. It will make wonderful baked goods. So we'll be back when I have all of the lard out. Here we have the finished product. I have 4 quarts of lovely white, almost tasteless, almost odorless lard, and it's wonderful for frying. It's wonderful for baking. Couple things about storage. I do store it in the refrigerator. If you have a nice cool root cellar, you could store it there. Never, never, never try to can it, and I mean pressure can or water bath can. Put it in the jars, chill it, then you can put a lid on it. It's safe for months as long as you keep it cool. Fat doesn't spoil quite the same way other foods do. It can go rancid from heat though. You can store it either in glass or plastic. I have it both ways, mostly just to show you. A lot of people store it in much smaller containers. They put it in pints or half pints because they save it just for baking, but we use it for many, many things. In this other container here, this is the byproduct. This is cracklings. And these are just little fried, they're like fried bits, and most of the fat has cooked out of them. You can use them just as they are, or if you want to stick around a little longer on this video, I'll show you how I crisp them up. Basically, I just put them in a cast iron skillet, cook them on a fairly high heat until more of the fat renders out of them, and they get crispier that way. The rest of the fat that renders out of them is not really good for lard. To get them up to a high enough temperature to make them crispy, then you've cooked the fat too much to be used as lard. You could save it like you do bacon grease and use it for a little bit of seasoning, but it's not something that I'm going to store for any length of time. People use these in bake them in cornbread. Sometimes people use them as salad toppers, eat them like nuts. I only really like to use them once they're crisped up a little further with extra cooking. But a lot of people use them just like this. My grandmother used them just like this. So these are cracklings, and this is your lard. It's been in the refrigerator, so it's pretty firm. But I'll give you an idea. I want to show you how nice and white and light that is. This makes the best biscuits you've ever had, I promise. So thank you for joining us. Once again, stick around if you want to see how I finish up the cracklings. And join us again tomorrow. I think I'm going to make stuffed shrimp. See you then. Finishing off cracklings. Now, as I said, you don't absolutely have to do this. And it's really easy. It's just like so many things. It just takes a little patience. I have a cast iron skillet here. Oops. bump the camera with my knee. I'm going to turn it on a little higher than medium. And I'm going to take these cracklings from the lard that we just rendered and dump them in. They're kind of stuck together. I always put them in a colander to finish draining them because I want to get all of the good usable lard that I can. Yes, I know. We're just playing with pig fat. I remember growing up, though, that my grandmother prized these. You only had them really for a little while, right after butchering time, which usually happened right before Thanksgiving. And she would save these and measure them out and use them carefully. And she used them in cornbread. Crackling cornbread was very prized. So I'm not going to stay here this whole time because I'm probably going to let these cook for close to an hour at a medium heat. It'll get hot and poppy, and it'll cook out the rest of the fat, the lard, and make them very crispy. And once they're crispy, they're very tasty. They're good on a salad. It's almost like bacon bits on a salad. So we'll come back after these have gotten crispy, and I'll just show you the finished product because there's nothing to this now except just letting them cook and stirring them occasionally. So I'll be back. Okay, this has been more like 30 minutes than an hour. And it's going to vary, but I don't know if you can actually see the difference in these, but you can hear the difference. These are crunchy. These are crispy. And as they cooked, I broke them up into a little bit smaller pieces. And so all I do now is drain as much of the oil off as I can. Spread them out. And if you're not familiar with these, the closest thing in flavor I can tell you is that they taste a lot like meat skins, chicharrones, and they're very good, crumbled up in many different things. And that's all there is to it. This is Cracklings. And thank you for sticking around for the finishing touches here. Hope to see you again soon. Thank you for joining us on Debbie's Back Porch.